Sometimes the bravest thing isn't walking into the OR, it's walking away. Today's episode is brought to you by the Hippocratic Collective. Check out our other shows and content at hippocratic-collective.com. Welcome back to this week's episode of Surgeon Interrupted. If you're new here, I'm a surgeon who walked away from the OR and into the great unknown. Today's episode is personal. I'm here with the person who's seen every part of this journey, my husband, Colin.
Oh,
People always ask, what does your partner think about all of this? Was he supportive? Did he freak out? Today, you'll hear it straight from the source. As a quick intro to Colin, for those of you who are new here, we met almost 9 years ago when I was doing an away rotation in ENT at Vanderbilt. And we met on Bumble. We had first met up for drinks at Jed Sports Bar in the West End, now defunct. And the rest is history.
yeah, that was a lifetime ago, like 3 or 4 versions of you ago.
Yeah, I know. That was like Frances May 1.0 walked into Jed Sports Bar that Wednesday afternoon. And I agree with you. I'm at least like Frances May 3.8 right now. Like we're working on Frances May 4.0.
Yeah.
But a commonly asked question again is whether or not Colin's a physician. He is not. Colin works in digital marketing. And so a lot of eye-opening conversations, introductions to industry and like how other businesses work, how other professional settings operate are all really thanks to him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you had really, you barely talked to people outside of medicine, like by the time I met you. So, certainly as you got further into it, you just got more and more ingrained in the medicine side of things, and we needed to pull you out sometimes.
It's super helpful to have someone who does that. And at the same time, I think Colin and his business mind and approach to things, like kind of with common sense, as he was seeing what unfolds naturally in medical education and in surgery, like he was kind of this voice being like, oh, what's going on with doctors? Like, this is quite atypical. This is not really like mirrored in other industries, right? For really smart people.
Yeah, I mean, there is a very weird sort of hive mind with people in medicine, and almost everything that happens within medicine is extremely goofy. The training process is insane. How long it takes to get there, just all the conversations that happen are very weird and insulated. So, um, yeah, I mean, to an outsider, it's, I think, pretty obvious, but most people either don't get that perspective or probably just like don't listen to it.
But this is why, like, I do think that when he talks about medicine being insulated, like it has been, and they don't let outsiders really into like what's behind the curtain for a reason, because it definitely serves the institution. And, I just say a lot that like the house always wins, but this is kind of why young trainees don't have a chance. Like, we don't often have much life experience or common sense or someone on the outside being a voice of reason.
Yeah, I mean, most people just go right from college to medical school to residency to attending, and I'm sure they're talking to family members and parents and stuff, but they're probably thinking, well, I don't know, I guess that's how medicine is. So who am I to say like it's weird or strange? But yeah.
Exactly. Or people really do couch it like quite a bit. Of course, like when you're talking to family, like 100%. It's hard to tell your immediate family members like, beyond just the I'm tired at work, or yeah, I've been at work a lot recently, or oh, someone freaked out at work today. It's hard to have those conversations with our loved ones.
I think the scale of it is a lot different too, because like you probably even would tell, well, I know this happened to you. Like you would tell friends, oh, this person is giving me a really hard time, or I have issues with this. And the common response is like, well, everyone has people they don't like at work, or, you're always going to have interactions or bosses that you don't like, but it's not the insane amount and intimacy and just frequency that comes with training, where, I mean, you're doing this for years and years and years, and you are as close as we are right now with these people that you might not like. That doesn't happen in like a boardroom setting. You're just sitting next to someone normally in a chair. Like, and you maybe see him for an hour a day.
Totally, totally. Yeah, like with one of my best friends from college, like this really did come up, maybe about like PGY 3 year. And that was some of the throes of it for me. And I was trying to kind of explain to her, I was like, there's this like super malignant attending. Like, it's brutal. Like every day, 5 days a week, and then call on weeknights and weekends. Am exposed to this person right now, like happens to be kind of the rotation I'm on, and this is where I'm at with work. And I was like, I am so, it's just brutal being in a room with them, let alone them texting you at all hours, like taking care of their patients, having to report to them several times a day, every day. Um, you know, and she replied to me. She was like, I 100% get it. We have a team boss who just like nobody likes. He's super unpleasant. No one likes him. And every Tuesday at 11 a.m., we have to meet with him. And I was like, and this person works hybrid, so from home. So from home every Tuesday. And she was like, I totally get it. I dread it every week. And I was like, oh, imagine if that was like 16-hour days sometimes in the OR for these longer flap cases. And again, like Colin said, I mean, you're 6 inches away from that person. So any of the, I mean, I think that I could dismiss almost anybody's nastiness virtually. I'd be like, just even psychologically, it's so nice to have like a distance from them.
It's pretty easy to sit through an uncomfortable meeting like virtually. You can
Well,
just
for sure.
mute yourself and kind of wait till it's over.
What I want to do first is basically we'll divide my life into 3 chapters, and I want you to describe me in each one in just one word. Okay. And so the 3 segments will be before medicine. We'll count that as like up until medical school graduation, kind of like before being an MD.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 2 will be during residency and attending hood. Like, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah.
I think we could give that one word. And then for the past month, I've been post ENT attending, so like life after medicine. Okay, so I'm excited to hear what your words are.
Okay. What's first? First is just like
Is before,
pre-residency.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and like, yeah, to be fair, it's like Colin didn't know me before medical school. I'm sure you can imagine. You've heard.
Yeah, but there's almost for it. We won't even talk about the pre, like the Notre Dame years and all that stuff. I feel like that's, I mean, you were like 16 years old, so
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
different.
so leave
You're just like
that
a
out. But
child. Yeah. Um, okay, pre-residency. I mean, I would just describe you as wild. You were pretty, just like ungovernable, like just a little feral. Kind of didn't really know the rules of society. You were just running around like doing whatever you want.
that's a lot of words for a
Wild,
for a
wild is the word.
one word response type of exercise. Um, it's fair. It's fair. No lies detected. But I agree. And this speaks to, like, I don't think that I'm the only one who is like that. Like, by the time that we are in medical school, a lot of us have just like studied really hard, worked really hard. Again, not gotten a ton of life experience. Um, I was a super weird kid. I didn't get well socialized as a kid, and basically being a gunner for all those years had just created like this perfect storm by the end of medical school. Um, so yeah, wild is fair. I do think that I was pretty good at dating by that point. Like I had studied it like a science. Like if you've
Sure.
read Modern Romance by Aziz
If the
Ansari,
idea was to just like get dates.
yeah, I was good
Yeah,
at getting dates.
sure. Yeah. I don't know if that's the same as like good at dating.
I mean, as somebody who went on to marry me, kind of like a self own, if you,
Yeah, but I caught you at the end. We were the last date, so
yeah,
maybe you peaked at the right moment.
yep, exactly. Okay, well, that's fair. Um, Word for during 5 years of ENT residency, 3 years as an ENT attending. That was an 8 year dark time.
Yeah, I would just say like angry. There was a lot of rage kind of fueling everything there. Um because even in, there's a lot of ups and downs and there was things all over the place, but it kind of always just came back to that because even when we were having a good time, it would usually finish by like you being mad that you have to go back to the hospital.
Hmm.
Kind of always was stuck on that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. And like my anger was never worse than when I was in residency. I think a lot of that just went back to like feeling super trapped, feeling powerless, and like, that I was living such an unpleasant experience that like wasn't ultimately my own choice. It wasn't in line with my values. And I just think that like as time went on in a machine that was like so conflicting with what I wanted out of life, it was hard for me to not have that manifest as anger.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and just like everything. I mean, you were just sort of upset with your lot in life. You didn't really know how to address it either. So it all just that was kind of the coping mechanism, was to just like lash out preemptively um about anything, whether it was people or situation, or like order got messed up at the restaurant, whatever. Like,
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that we've also talked about, though, like even with other surgeons on this podcast and my old show, in terms of like, it's not uncommon that like going through surgical training, especially for a person who isn't like super grounded, doesn't know themselves super well, and things like that, it becomes so blurry and challenging to know what's a big deal and what isn't. Like I totally agree with you that I lost all of those like lines of clarity and understanding. Like during residency, if somebody was like 5 minutes late for something social, or if a food order was messed up, like I just feel like it's so drilled into us, like perfection, no room for error. You can't be missing an order. Like then when I would go out as a consumer into the world and like, okay, like something's missing from an order, it'd just be like this explosive anger and resentment and this like, wow, where's everyone's standards? Like what's
yeah,
going on?
yeah. I mean, you did judge everyone the way that like an attending was gonna judge you. I mean, there's a if you know Columbia, Missouri, I think there's like only one bagel place, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's a bagel place in town that's very good. They have like amazing bagels, but it is kind of a clown show in there. You never know like what bagels they're gonna have left. It might take 5 minutes, it might take 25 minutes. Like they'll mess up your order. It's all over the place. Um, and I think we went there together maybe once, and then we just couldn't bring you back. Like you would just be ready to punch someone. And they didn't really see what the issue was. So even if you like freaked out at them, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, whatever, like no big deal." Um, so I would just have to go in and like get them. You would even just like wait in the car because you like couldn't stand to be in there. Because yeah, there was no like, well, this is a bagel place and the other place is a hospital, so maybe the standards are different. But it was just kind of all one.
Yes, yes. Like, and especially because the term professionalism and the definition of professionalism is like so thrown around in the hospital. It's weaponized against like students and trainees all the time, certainly. And like, people could just not like you and say, like, well, you're not meeting professionalism standards and things like that. Whereas, like, then you go into another industry and people aren't running efficiently or on time. And you start to really be like, is this professional? Like, and I'm mad.
Yeah, but like, you do generally like things to be like, pretty orderly and um professional, I guess. But the fact that you would sort of bring that standard around to everyone, like you didn't like the hospital and you didn't like being judged in that manner. So like it didn't even really make sense that you were then putting that onto everyone else. But that was just like it was a justice thing. It was like, if I'm gonna be held to this standard in all of, and it really is. It's not just at the hospital, because you're basically on call at all times. Even if you're not technically on call, everyone's got your personal number. They can text and call you
Hmm.
whenever. So I think for you, it was like, if I'm going to be held to this standard 24/7, then everyone else in the world also has to be held to it. And if that's not the case, then like, why are we even doing this? It's not fair.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like the way that we fix that is that I left medicine. Like I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. I just it wasn't like the right fit. It wasn't good for me, rather than undertaking the extraordinary challenge of making the rest of the world also have to submit to the residence code, the surgeon's code. I have finally figured it out, which is just to remove myself from the equation.
Yeah,
Because
again, there's an alternate reality where, yeah, where you're just like bringing residency to the world. You're just like killing all of the joy. I mean, it's literally like the um EEAO. No,
yeah, everything everywhere all at once.
I was messing up.
EAO.
Yeah, where the just like they're bringing like all of the bad stuff to the world. Like,
Yeah, like the bagel of
yeah,
destruction. 100%. That's what I was like essentially trying to
yeah, yeah.
do. I mean, in addition to Colin saying, like I resented it, so I wanted to make other people also like have to be miserable with me. Like misery loves company. It's very true. Like we see it now with people who are miserable in medicine or surgery and lash out at me. Um, but in addition, there's also the biosocial, theories of behavior and stuff like that. So, I mean, to an extent, like we just behave the way that like it's modeled for us. And a lot of us, myself, very much so. When I started residency, I was like young and gullible and impressionable. So when I was told this certain script, this is the way that the world works, this is the way that like professionalism is, this is how professionalism looks, there's not like a lot of variance on that, then yeah, every time I walked outside of the hospital, I was shocked for sure. Okay. Third and final word is the post surgery world. And, I've been out of the hospital for a little over a month now.
So just the last month.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'll say maybe like reluctantly curious because I was gonna say just like curious, but I don't know that you're quite ready to just like explore things for the sake of it. But you are. I mean, it is like a flip has been no a switch has been flipped. It is like a switch has been flipped where you are just all of a sudden now more open to the world and new experiences. You're still kind of inching into it, I would say. You know, sandwiches are pretty new to you. And I heard you earlier describing how you want to like plan for the best sandwich in Boston, which again is still like I'm gonna look up on the internet and plan for exactly what the best sandwich and it has to be the best one, but still better than being like, nope, there's the one restaurant I know in Boston and I will only go to that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna plan. Like, your girl's definitely gonna plan and like look stuff up ahead of time. I'm always going to, I think, do that. But I totally agree. Like, I had my first sandwich this year.
No, I made you a grilled
I
cheese 4 years ago. That was like literally your first sandwich. And then we've been inching into it.
I just think some people wouldn't even call a grilled cheese a sandwich because it
No,
was like
we
two
made we
cheeses
got you a
melted on a bread.
panini at a bakery in town here a couple years ago. But then you you liked it, but you're like, I don't like the idea of it, so then you stopped eating it for like 2 years
Right, right. Then I've been revisiting sandwiches, but I do think that a lot of that comes back to like finally feeling safe
in sandwiches.
in the
Yeah,
world,
yeah, yeah.
feeling
To mix
safe
ingredients,
moving
of
around
course,
the
but
world, and then that's playing out in other ways where like, okay, I can go to something and things don't occur just the way that I expect or want them to, or like I can eat a food that might have like an unexpected like texture or flavor because that used to just legitimately like be like we have to shut down business for like 1 to 3 days if something like that happened.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, you came back from New York and we're talking about like people watching and like sitting in cafes and stuff, and like you would have never done that
Yeah,
6 months ago,
I still don't like that much, but
but you did it.
here's the big difference. It's just that like truly before and especially during residency and things like that, if we were out somewhere and people were having fun at like a public fountain or something, it would enrage me. Whereas now, just like truly, I mean, I feel like I can people watch or like if people obstruct my view or anything, like it's fun. I feel like now my life finally is aligned in terms of like values and what I want out of life. And so just seeing people's like joy is not enraging. I think that's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
some Francis May 4.0 type of shit.
that's a win.
Okay. Very interesting selection of words. Thank you for doing that exercise with me.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to dive deeper, off camera into how feral you thought I was
I think
at
you
the
know
beginning.
that. I think you know the answer.
Okay, I want to set the scene first in terms of like sharing my decision not to do a fellowship because I think that this story like helps show people, where how far we've come.
Yeah.
It was about like early PGY3 year that I really, when we met, I definitely was like, I'm going to do an ENT residency, then a fellowship. I'll stay in academics, like I'll be an attending, we'll crank out research. I mean, that was very much the track I was on. But by third year and PGY2 year had been so unpleasant, I was like, man, I feel like part of me knew that doing a fellowship would be a really bad idea, but I just could not like let go of the idea of fellowship and like the rat race and being in academics. I could not let it go. And I feel like you knew before I knew that I should not do a fellowship.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just more residency. Like, but yeah, I mean, you were purely motivated by what other people thought of it. I mean, pretty early on, I even got you to start saying that. Like, you even acknowledged the fact that it was just about what other people thought about you and like your choices on the matter. But it didn't matter. That was still the most important thing to you. It was like, this unknowable group of like ENTs and like their ancestors were all gonna like judge you if you didn't do a fellowship, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. It was pretty nebulous, but I what like exactly. I was just like concerned about.
I would ask you like who is it? And you'd be like them, like they're gonna judge me. I'd be like, who though? Like, can you name a person? You'd be like, well, I don't know, like just the ENTs. Like,
Yeah.
I'd be like, do you know any of them? And do you care about their opinion? You'd be like, no. But that was it. Like, it didn't matter.
Yes, yeah, some sketchy reasoning. And so basically what I think really cinched it though is that like I went to Colin and I had internally kind of come to terms with this. And so I approached him and I was like, okay, let's say I don't do a fellowship. I don't want to now. So let's say I don't. What do you think that your friends and family will think of that? Like, will that be embarrassing? Will it be embarrassing for all of us? Would that take a toll?
Yeah. Um, I think I probably said like they don't even know what a fellowship is, and like nobody would care at all, and nobody even really knows how residency
Yeah, you
works.
were like, no one knows what an ENT is. Like, they just know that
Yeah, I'd
you're
be like, they
already like a
barely know.
specialized
Right.
surgeon. Fine. Like, becoming a doctor, number one, is a
Yeah.
cool thing. You were like, they know that you're a doctor. That's pretty cool. That's fine. Like, and that's enough for some people. But it's so funny because when you're insulated in like the medicine academic rat race, like being a doctor is like step one,
Yeah, it's
of a
just
20-step plan.
right. It's just to impress other academic doctors. Because realistically, it just in a vacuum, if I had presented my friends with, oh yeah, she decided to do one more year of basically unpaid labor to make less money after that, but in a more prestigious setting versus immediately taking a job and like doing what she wanted, they'd be like, that's such a weird decision. I don't know why you'd ever do that.
Yeah, they like think less of
Yeah, the
someone
idea of
almost
fellowship
for
is
doing it.
nonsense within a specialty. I get it. Like suppose we need, do we need these people though? Like within already specialized surgery, like it just feels unnecessary. But
I'm sure we need some of the people.
I get it, the medicine fellowships, like because you got to sort of pick which route you want to go. But like, you guys got trained in laryngology. Like, do we really need a whole specialist laryngologist? Like, what if someone just sort of learned on the job and became the
For
specialist?
sure.
It's like when to the point when you're a surgical subspecialist doing a fellowship. I mean, you're like almost running that service. You're doing almost all the surgeries for that. So for them to still be paying you at like a resident rate is like truly criminal. Like, um the head and neck fellowships and stuff. I mean, those should be paid like an attending, and they could easily afford it. Like, it's crazy, but
Yeah, people will do like 100 flaps a year
yeah.
for that. So, okay, when we really came together and decided that I was going to pivot and leave medicine and do this second act, did you have to pivot too? And if so, like how? What was that like for you?
Um, I don't know. Not really. Well, I mean, I had to pivot. I suppose in just thinking about kind of our future, but really more of like the shorter term future because we had sort of planned out like a 10-year scenario, which I never quite believed I didn't think we were gonna
That was
actually.
ambitious.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't think you were gonna do 10 years. But that was like on paper what we were sort of planning out, and it was we didn't have to think like that
Yeah.
seriously about it. So, um, when we decided this, sure, we had to more. I mean, even just financially, we had to plan out how it was gonna work. Um, but in terms of how I had to pivot, I mean, I feel like I started working more directly with you on like working through things and improving certain aspects and just learning about things. My approach always before was this kind of like invisible hand, just sort of let you figure it out. And if it took like 3 years, like that was okay. But once I feel like you made this decision, we had to have some just more direct conversations and um, get you to a place where you were ready to leave the hospital and do other things.
Yes. Agreed. Felt like I went through a boot camp for at least the last like 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
What do you think that people get wrong about somebody choosing to leave a career like this?
Well, one, I think it's this idea of you signed up for like the final clinical job when you started medical school, 12 years earlier, which I think is like a very recent specific thing in that, the same with like getting a law degree. It just used to be pretty commonplace to like get an MD, get, training. And then, yeah, you do this practice for a little while and then you pivot to this and you start a business or whatever else you want to do with it. Maybe you can practice a little medicine here and there. But like, there's tons of MDs that completed residency and now work in other industries. Like, it's just not that big a deal. I don't think that you would switch something. Um, I think in your case specifically, the more sort of specialized
Hmm.
you get, especially if you're the people that are making these comments are probably within healthcare already, so they understand that like these are pretty limited positions and everything. So the outrage level kind of goes up and up because this idea of like you stole someone's spot. It's just crazy. I mean, again, the fact that you would be required to like stay in a job forever when you're 23, 24, making the decision that like you want to be an ENT. Um, I don't think I know a single I don't think a single one of my friends is like still in the same job or even like I mean, I guess they're in the same industry for the most part, but not really like, took a finance degree and went here, here,
Yeah.
here, or a law degree and went to different spots. Like that's very common. Um, but also it's not the individual's fault. It's not like the onus is not on the individual to fix the fact that there's only a limited number of ENT spots or even just like residency spots in general. I mean, that is a big systematic issue that if you have an issue with someone leaving medicine and like quote unquote taking a spot, you should be fighting with Congress who like sets these spots. It's not, you should be fighting with, the huge organizations that are intentionally keeping these spots low.
Yeah, the academies lobby for
Yeah,
this and things like that. Well, also, you can just become more competitive and get the spot that you want.
sure.
That's another option. But yes, people have been leaving medicine for a long time before I did, and they will continue to do so after I did. But I do think that by loud quitting and doing it publicly and not backing down when people were like, go away and we hope you die, I think that that is at least trying to become and show a different type of role model for like the next generation. Like there literally is no shame in leaving.
Yeah, and I don't think like the full life of sacrifice is necessary. Like it's not this isn't, the 1800s where like you pick your job when you're 13 and then like you just no matter what you sacrifice your life to do that. And honestly, again, if you get all the way through residency and several years as an attending, like you and whoever else is doing that is pretty good at sacrificing everything for this like cause and job. So like maybe we should just make it less appalling to continue in this career. Then I genuinely I think you would have just kept doing it for 10 years or beyond if it wasn't like so horrible. I don't really have a question about that.
Yeah, the golden handcuffs. Like I probably wouldn't be like, oh, it's lit every day, but it would have been fine. And I would have been like, it's a job.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you'd be like, oh, I am helping people. It's whatever. It's worth it.
Okay, so we have some good questions, some write-ins from Instagram.
Are these real questions or are these just stuff that you wrote in on Instagram?
They are real
Okay.
questions from the audience.
Yeah.
If I wrote these questions, I'd be like, should you buy Frances May a new purse?
Uh-huh.
Don't we think that Frances May deserves a new purse?
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But that's how you would know that they were written by me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What advice would you give to other husbands of surgeon wives?
Ooh, yeah. This is I feel like we've talked about this maybe a little bit before on a previous thing. I would mainly say like you're gonna have to leave the ego at the door and just know that you're gonna be taking on majority of sort of both roles, whether you have dependents or pets or whatever or not, or just it's just you two like in the relationship. Um, you know, don't expect to have like dinner made for you. Like you're gonna be doing the laundry. And it's fine. I mean, it's not if you can't handle like the you know sort of maybe judgment or whatever that would come along with that, it's not going to be for you because it, I think to expect that someone with like that demanding of a job is going to then also be like a 1950s housewife, like it's just not going to happen. And you got to be okay with taking care of yourself and finding your own things to do, right? Like when you were in residency and as a new attending and you're on call all the time, you're back and forth to the hospital, I'm by myself a lot. um and it's easy, I think, to one get used to that, but then also sort of forget that you need to be the one like preparing things for when she gets back home, right? Because of that limited time, you need to make the time that you have together count. So um it's a tough setup for sure. It's going to be a lot different than probably most of your friends and their wives, but I think it can be very rewarding, and if it's the right person, then it's worth it.
That's very nice. Thank you. That's at least as good as a new purse.
Yeah, we'll take it. Cheaper.
So, pretty similar here, but I think this was a thoughtful question. How hard was it to maintain a relationship while she was in medical training? Did you feel like your needs were unmet? And did you guys go long periods without seeing one another?
Um, it was not hard to maintain a relationship because like I think you relied on me a lot, right? Like I would drive you back and forth to the hospital all the time. So like we did spend most of our time together. I mean, we basically spent all of our time together when you were outside of the hospital. You, I think, were very good about even on like really hard days and busy stuff. Like you were always sort of available via text or call. I think the difficult part is like truly finding room and kind of space to even like have some of the harder conversations, and like it really was pretty horrible to have to deal with like a fight or something uncomfortable knowing that we had limited time together. You were going to come back already baseline just like upset from being at the hospital. So okay, how do I broach this subject because it it's just like it's rough to use like our one weekend day or something to like that I know might turn into a fight, something along those lines. That was never fun. um, as far as like my needs being unmet, I don't even I barely have
Pretty low
needs. Yeah, I
maintenance,
don't know. It was fine.
fairly low maintenance
That was
person.
not much of a consideration.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't feel like you have a ton of needs in a relationship. And like, you know, you have broken up with someone before for like reaching out too much while you were just trying to play basketball with the boys. So, like, I feel like somebody being at the hospital most working hours, like, was just honestly
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, it worked. It
Yeah.
worked from that standpoint. And yeah, I do think that like totally agree, very hard for me to receive negative feedback. I think like at home or in the relationship and obviously like not even a big deal or something worth a fight, but just like even more minor like, "Hey, could we do this differently at home?" One of the ways that helped to do that was like the relationship contract and the relationship like meetings where if those are like monthly or quarterly, there's a lot of different tactics out there where if you say that there's going to be a monthly check-in, then people can write down any beefs that they have, any little annoyances at home, issues they want to bring up with their partner. And so if it's a big enough deal to you, then you can take your notes app out on your phone and write it down. If it's an even truly big enough deal to you, then by the time of the monthly check-in, then you can like read some of that stuff off of your list. But obviously not uncommonly, like by the time monthly check-in hits, you'd be like looking at your notes like, no, this isn't that big of a deal. Whereas like, where I put used paper towels, like made it through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And consequently, we changed that behavior.
Yeah.
It's all sorted.
Good job.
Yeah. We've been living together peacefully a long time now because of some of those things. But again, like for the person where I just felt consistently really horrible after work. So we had to create like a vehicle for me to receive that like thoughtful feedback, very reasonable feedback in a way where then I wouldn't be like defensive or feel antagonized by it. And since I'm a person who, is neurodivergent and the timetables and coping ahead, planning ahead is all very helpful, then like having a set relationship check-in works.
Yeah, I had to learn how to be a lot more intentional because I think I'm more of a casual, just kind of bring stuff up, chat, like just, discuss it live. That didn't really work for you, especially when you were like in a pressure cooker.
Yes, yes. I don't always love a chat. I do like timetables. I like to sometimes, but now I've really like loosened the reins on that. And sometimes the times table will say like 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. free
I used to
time.
write to you a lot. Even if like we were gonna have a discussion or something, I would write ahead of time. You could sort of read it, be prepared, and then like we could have a discussion. I feel like that
Yeah,
helped like calm you
that's
down a
true.
little bit.
That's nice. Yeah. Okay. Last two questions from the audience. If you were a doctor, what kind of doctor would you be?
Weirdly, I don't know that I've ever actually thought about that. I definitely wouldn't be a surgeon. Uh, it's just like I wouldn't want the responsibility, and I have pretty bad hands. I'm like a little
Your
shaky.
gross motor skills are very good, but your fine motor skills
Yeah,
are
yeah, sure.
not.
I have good hand-eye coordination, but not like under a microscope.
Mm,
I don't know. I'd probably want to be like a sports med guy or something. Um, that seems pretty
yeah,
cool.
that's true. That's a cool life.
Yeah, I could do that.
This is the best question from the audience. Kind of a deep cut. It was written by somebody that knows you're a Bachelor super fan.
Okay.
Should Rachel have picked Peter?
I mean, it looks like it. Although I don't know. I think he's like maybe a sketchier guy than we realized. But yeah, it seems like Brian was kind of a loser.
Yes, for those of you who don't follow the Bachelor lore, Rachel Lindsay is one of our all-time favorite bachelorettes. She was amazing. She's a lawyer. And the Rachel, Brian, Peter love triangle still haunts some of us to this day.
She should have picked Peter, if only for the reason that everybody loved Peter and nobody liked Brian. So I feel like she spent
If you're going to break
years.
up anyway.
Yeah, yeah. She spent years like fighting against it. And like that probably kept her down a bit. She probably could have been hugely famous if she had
If she
picked
picked Peter.
Peter. Cause like
Even
they,
if they broke up, she
oh
would have
yeah,
gotten
they'd have been
sympathy.
everywhere. They'd have been
Yeah.
all talk shows all over the place. Like everybody loved both of them.
I mean, fortunately, she's big. She's doing great. I
She
think
is
she
now.
does, yeah, her
She was probably a
ESPN.
little bit undeniable, but I mean, she had to like hide
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah. Very true. Very true. Thank you for that interesting question from the crowd. Okay, so it was very fun to have you on here today. Thanks for being here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Colin did not want to share a chair. If you're watching this live, you'll see we had to share a chair. There are some technical setup things that we're troubleshooting, so we're coming live to you from like one lounge chair. But I've said this before, leaving medicine does not mean that you failed. Sometimes it means that you just had the courage to start over. And Colin, thank you for standing beside me even when the path was unclear. If you've ever wondered if you're allowed to want something different in life, then this is for you. Stick around. We're not done yet.
No, you're just getting started. Glad I could be here to prove that I'm alive, and we haven't like broken up over you quitting surgery.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Frances May MD. Check out our website, hippocratic-collective.com, for more shows and content like this. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Surgeon Interrupted. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Because sometimes the bravest thing isn't walking into the OR, it's walking away. Until next time, keep asking, what would it look like for you to choose your life on purpose?
This, I guess.
Yeah. Us squished onto one chair.